welcome into the August Best Ball Draft video. I'm your host, Ian Power, joined as always by Matt Vitale, Frankie Santiago. We're going to be going through our final Best Ball Draft, well, not for us, but our final filmed Best Ball Draft of 2021. The offseason flies by. I think the only upside to it being the final Best Ball Draft is that it means football's right around the corner.
Oh, yeah.
So, I'm excited about that at least.
Yeah.
We have a little bit of news before we get into the draft. James Washington, it was reported that he has requested a trade. He has reported that he has not requested a trade.
The typical bamboozle.
Yeah, he pulled the wool over our eyes.
He's a solid receiver. I could see his want to get out of there. It's a pretty deep receiver room, and I don't see where he can really work in. So.
And, even after Juju leaves next season, he's still the 3.
Yeah.
There's
definitely places that would use him, and I won't be surprised if he goes out there for, cheap, like a pick or something like that. I mean, if I'm the Steelers, I'd do it.
Sure. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets moved if the trade request smoke is actually real, but we will have to see. They may just keep him for depth, seeing as Deontay Johnson got banged up in the Hall of Fame game, so I believe Claypool did as well.
I don't believe so. I'm not 100%.
Not like long-term banged up, but I know they both exited the game at different times. Hollywood Brown, speaking of receivers who are banged up, has a hamstring injury. He's participating in conditioning drills, but is not expected to do anything more serious for a while. The Ravens are being slow with his hamstring injury so that it doesn't get re-aggravated and cause a bigger issue overall for him.
Something tells me down the line that hamstring will become re-aggravated.
I mean, not if they rehab it correct right now, which I believe is the goal. But we'll have to see. I mean, as we know with camp hamstring injuries, they tend to linger if not handled correctly, and they're one of those injuries where you wish the player would just end up missing a few weeks sometimes to be able to get it right, because you can technically play. We've seen Julio. You've commented before. We've seen Julio play through this injury a bunch of times, and it limits the ability to be a good receiver unless you are Julio Jones.
Yep.
Very few people are. This is a bad week for receiver injuries. Justin Jefferson has an AC joint injury, although it is not deemed serious at the moment. He is currently not really doing anything in training camps there. Yeah. Give him some time, some rest and recovery, R&R, if you will.
Yeah, I was looking into it. Luckily, it's just a sprain, but I was hearing the range of outcomes on this one with the fact that the AC joints basically lets a receiver do this, which as watched a few football games, they do put their hands up a few times, so.
I mean, Kirk Cousins could just put the ball right here a bunch, just a bunch of breadbasket throws.
Sure, it is still Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
So.
You know what? I'm gonna save this one for last because I think it's funny. Josh Allen secured the bag, 6-year extension, $258 million, $150 million guaranteed. Wow, that's a lot of money.
That is. It's kind of weird to think that.
3 years ago, he was barely in the league.
Barely in the league, or just the Bills were barely in the league. The Bills used to be right next to the Browns for laughingstocks, and now they are a legit contender for the Super Bowl.
Just goes to show you having a good quarterback can do for you, and then also trading for one of the best receivers in the league.
A good front office can really, really turn things around.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy for Josh Allen. He's a good story for a lot of lesser prospects coming in that you put in the work and improve year over year, and you can go from being a kind of average player to a franchise cornerstone.
Yep, you can.
I'm about it.
You can elevate your team to the point where they're good enough to move down to Austin, Texas, as the Bills finally push for a Super Bowl.
That would be hilarious.
Oh my God, I can see it. The Austin Bills win a Super Bowl before the Bills.
I found this out. Quick sidebar about the Bills, bluffing to move to Texas. I found this out when I was looking at the situation a little bit. Apparently, the Bills are asking for public money to build their stadium, even though they are a non-event stadium, which means that they only do 8 events a year, and those are the 8 home football games a year. So they don't even have the excuse that a lot of stadiums have, being like, we provide jobs, we bring in money for the community. It's like, you do 8 football games a year, and you're bold enough to ask the taxpayers to pay for all of your stadium. Yeah. You cheap bastards.
Yeah, it's a really dumb situation, and hopefully if they do end up just staying there, which they should just work with the taxpayers. You start putting on events. Like, I mean, that's what you're supposed to do with the stadium when you're not using it.
Or the Bills' ownership are billionaires. Pay for your own damn stadium.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why that isn't just the norm. If I want to build a house, I have to buy the house. I can't make the taxpayers of Massachusetts pay for my house.
I mean, you could try.
Well, sure, but I'll fail. I hate that. I hate that situation so much. But I thought that was just the dumbest piece of information. That they don't even do anything to claim community betterment. They just sit there and put on 8 football games a year. People tackle each other through burning tables. Yeah. All right, back to actual fantasy football news here. Saquon Barkley in a very weirdly worded press release isn't a lock to miss week 1. Usually it's like, chance to play week 1, on track maybe to come back. No, he isn't a lock to miss week 1. He is, however, expected to be ready to play week 3. So to me, that sounds like he's probably not playing in the first 2 weeks. How does this affect you guys' ranking of Saquon? No, basically knowing that while he isn't guaranteed to miss week 1 and 2, he's probably not, if he's out there, probably not going to be at full steam.
I mean, we talked about this a little bit last episode.
We did.
I mean, he's not going to fall into the second round, and where I'm drafting, I'm off him because I think there are better guys who are going to be more reliable, just based on injury history and just overall production. I mean, that's not to say he's not a productive guy when he's on the field, but it's him being on the field and being on the field early in the season, which is what I'm worried about. So I'm off him completely because he's not going to be there in the second round.
But I'm saying knowing that. Because he honestly could end up. We've seen this before with star players that when they go into the season injured, they do fall out of the first round. Le'Veon Bell did it the year he was suspended. Where does this lower Saquon Barkley to for you? Like at what point, knowing that he is most likely going to best case scenario be 60-70%, we'll say. For the first couple weeks, where are you guys comfortable taking Saquon?
For me, I'm a little more harsh with it, where I'm not touching him with a first-round pick. I don't think that you can really justify taking any, with the quality of talent that's in the first round right now, and the need to anchor your team with one of these players. I can't justify in my own head taking him there. I was actually very interested to see what kind of players you were looking at that you would take him over, because I know I'll take Eckler, Chubb, Zeke. I'll take Devontae. Probably take a shot at Travis Kelce, and I'm not much of a tight end 1 guy, first round guy.
Sure.
But I think, and the top, pick 5 in the second round is probably right where I start thinking about him.
So second round running backs, do you take him or Eckler?
Eckler.
Him or Gibson?
That's tough. Just gut reaction, I'd probably take him.
Him or Najee Harris?
Najee
100% of the time.
Him or Joe Mixon?
I'm, as we know, a little bit more down on Mixon, so
sure.
I'll probably go with Barkley.
Okay, so if you I'm just going off I was just going off ADP there, so that puts him around pick 16 pretty much then.
Yeah, because ideally if I'm taking Saquon Barkley, it means I in the first round took Chubb, Zeke,
sure,
Taylor, someone. I took another running back who can be there, and then ideally I can plan to get myself through the first 2 weeks. And
yeah, you're hedging your bets a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm going risky, but the idea, if you can get out of the first 2 rounds with Chubb, Saquon, Zeke, Saquon, like that going forward, and Saquon's healthy for the rest of the season, you could have a dynamic duo.
See, I think I'm at the same spot as you, where I definitely would take Eckler over him. I probably take Najee over him, but I'm not certain about that. But I definitely would grab Saquon over Antonio Gibson or Joe Mixon. Yeah. So I think we talked about it with our, early wins are so important, and because that's the biggest thing that scares me with Saquon is like, yeah, he could be a dynamic factor, but that still, looks like it's gonna be a bad Giants team.
Yeah.
And we're also assuming that he's going to be fully healthy by week 3. He's just expected to be ready to play by week 3. He may not be fully healthy until week 5 or something. Okay. And so if it takes him that long to ramp up, I'm worried that he could put your team in a hole that you then have to hope you can play out of.
Yeah. So also on that, because running backs it's clear to see what you want for running backs, but round 2 is where you see wide receivers start flying off the board. For you two, Devontae Adams or him?
I mean, Adams. That's
Tyreek Hill
for me.
Oh, Saquon.
Stephon Diggs.
Saquon.
DeAndre
Adams is the only receiver I take over
a
running back in the first 2 rounds.
Okay. Fair enough. What about Travis Kelce?
Nope.
Nope. What?
I don't take Travis Kelce over Saquon. I don't. You know that this has been my strategy as long as I've been playing fantasy football. I am risk averse when it comes to age. I don't like old players on my team, and I'm worried that Travis Kelce could be a landmine this season. I've never taken tight ends in the first round anyway. When I've taken high tight ends, it's been like 3rd round highest.
Yep.
Kittle, Waller, sometimes Andrews. I don't love Kelce's age. I don't love the fact that the Chiefs could pivot to their dynamic running back they just paid a first-round pick for. As we know, that can eat into tight end targets. I'm slowly talking myself out of Travis Kelce entirely. So
fair. You about in the same ballpark at least as like ADP was, Frankie?
Yeah, running backs just too important. Specifically the way that I've seen people drafting this year, because I've done a fair amount of mock drafts. People are liking double running back and even triple running back a lot this year. So that pool is going to dry up much quicker than it usually does, especially with the, how far down the list you can get these wide receivers that are going to return value. I think it's just too important to get a guy, regardless of, if he's your running back 1, you're taking a risk. If he's your 2, I'm more sold on it, but I can't take a tight end who might, we saw him last year as the absolute ceiling. He's not going to do that again. So I don't think that you can take a guy like that who is going to...
I don't think you can say he's not going to do that again. It's just at his age and with how the Chiefs' offense, is set up potentially where it could change, it's probably not the most likely scenario.
Regardless, I don't think he's going to do that again. And if I pick a guy like that, I can't have a guy who's going to have a question mark as my number 2, even if I do get him in the 2nd round.
Sure.
Okay.
And then Kenny Gallaudet it's been confirmed he will miss 2 to 3 weeks. So injury is still not super serious. It sounds like kind of like with Hollywood, they're just giving him time to let that hamstring heal naturally, and hopefully it becomes a non-issue by the time the season happens. So, he is a veteran at this point. I don't think he really needs camp to, get out there and do Kenny Gallaudet things.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm kind of glad that he's gonna miss that time, because it gives him a better chance of shaking that off, but it's still a hamstring. And then the news that I wanted to save till last, because I thought it was hilarious when I read the quote. Sean McVay was quoted saying that Matthew Stafford will never play a preseason game under his rule. The exact quote says, "There is a 0 chance you'll ever see Matthew Stafford take a snap in the preseason for the Rams as long as I'm the coach. That will never happen." I love just how vehemently Sean McVay came out and made that point, because it's just like you see so many star players get hurt in the preseason over meaningless shit, and Sean McVay's like, "Oh yeah, no, he's not allowed to touch the football until September."
Yeah, it was when you read that quote before the show, I'm just staring like, so yeah, he's very against it.
They did, to be fair, they did just use a lot of first-round picks to get. The Rams have a first-round pick until like 2022. So I can kind of understand that they don't want to risk their, asset that they have no way to replace. But I love the attitude, because there's nothing that takes the wind out of your sails more than seeing a good fantasy player, just a good football player in general, getting hurt over a meaningless preseason game.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's all I had for news. Did you guys have anything?
I did not.
No, just football's back. The Cowboys are losing, so all is right in the world.
As is tradition. All right, let's jump into this puppy lobby. We're going to leave you all for a moment. We'll come back when the draft is starting. All right, so we are all into the draft lobby. The draft is 33 seconds from starting. Frankie hauling in the 2 spot. I am in the 4 spot, and Vitaly's all the way back at 8. I really hate drafting this high.
I also hate drafting this high.
So, Frankie, seems we have a little bit of time leading in. Who are you thinking about taking it at 1-2? Well, I guess we'll cede the floor to you early.
It's going to, we were talking about this a little bit at the bar last night. My 1, 2, 3 and everything is CMC, Dalvin, Kamara.
So you're just locking Dalvin in here.
Yeah,
you're not thinking about it.
Assuming that the first guy doesn't pick Dalvin, but
that would be a bold strategy there, I think.
I can see someone do it if you've been drafting a lot at the top and you need to diversify your portfolio, so to say.
Sure.
You need to get some Dalvin ownership, but looks like he went with CMC.
Yeah, so I am just going to lock it.
As no one is shocked.
And just not look back.
All right, let's see who Soccer Stud takes. I'm hoping he doesn't take Kamara because I'd like to get a share of Kamara here. Honestly, I might be doing something spicy if he.
Zeke.
All right, he took Zeke, which opens up Kamara for me. I'm not gonna think twice about that. For me, I've talked a little bit about this. I think that Kamara is with the news that Michael Thomas is going to miss a good chunk of in-season time. Kamara to me has been pushed into that top tier of backs with Christian McCaffrey and Dalvin Cook. So if I can get him at 4, I'm very happy.
Well, what I consider one of my last bona fide RB1s for a pick 1 just went right before me with Aaron Jones. So
Ron Jones. Take Saquon Barkley.
I'm not taking Saquon Barkley. I'm going to go ahead and take Devontae Adams right there.
Sure.
You should have taken Saquon Barkley.
I should not have.
Based on the conversation that we had, I think that would have been.
Honestly, best ball is probably one of the better formats to take him in, if only because it's easier to not have to worry about him. He'll sit on your bench when he's doing his mediocre performances. When he's back to full Saquon speed, all of a sudden he's, just in there giving you tons of points, and you can easily draft for running back depth to sort of cover up for that.
Certainly, it's just let's say if the person at 6 had taken Devontae instead, I probably would have looked at him again. But with Devontae still on the board at 8, I felt I really couldn't pass up on him. So
sure, he's a difference maker wide receiver, especially with Aaron Rodgers officially back there for this season.
Yeah,
we were talking about it in the car today. It's he's the only receiver I think in the first 2 rounds that's worth a look over all of these high-priced running backs just because of how quickly the running back position falls off.
Yeah, he is just such a difference maker overall that he can do what most other receivers just wish they could.
Yeah.
And with Rodgers playing basically for nothing this year, I can just see him doing what he did last year again, which is really set himself apart from other receivers.
Show teams why they want to bring Aaron Rodgers in the twilight of his career, because if you think about it, this is basically like an open tryout for him.
Yeah,
he's showing teams that obviously he was great last season, but he's trying to show teams that he can still perform at an extremely high level on a year in year out basis.
So my pick just came up again and went. I went ahead and I just took Jonathan Taylor there. I had Antonio Gibson, Mixon, and Najee all looking at me, but I think I went with the best O-line that should be getting healthier. It should be rocky to start, so I got to really make sure I get some depth in there.
The report did just come out that they expect both. I'm forgetting the O-line's name.
Wentz and Quentin Nelson.
Thank you. I keep thinking Quinnen Williams.
Yeah.
Also
alignment, but just on the defensive side.
Yeah. The news came out, did say that obviously we already knew that Quentin Nelson was aiming for that week 5 or not week 5, but 5-week return time. Carson Wentz is also expected to be back relatively quickly.
Right. So.
All right. This is not a hard decision for me. Again, I'm taking Najee Harris here.
It's why I've started liking the top. Granted, I feel like it's a little bit different here in best ball, but I feel like redrafts, these guys will go more towards the top. But looking through,
I just like his opportunity the best,
Oh, no, I that's what I'm saying. That's why I do like the top picks, is because you do get a chance. If you're in the lower top, you have a chance of pairing an elite running back with a high upside running back in the second.
Sure.
What do you think, Frankie?
Yeah, I'm just gonna go don't run back like a Mixon here.
You sound so defeated.
No, I mean,
I'll take Mixon, I guess.
there's not really a lot of explanation to go into this. I mean, I just talked about how important double running back is. And
Are you mad that I picked Najee Harris 2 picks ahead of you, Frankie?
I mean, I figured you would because you keep saying that you're going to. So it's not really that much of a surprise when you say
who
it.
are you thinking? Because you're going to be right back up in a moment.
Frankie, it doesn't have to be a surprise. I can still just stare into your soul and just, slowly take all of your players away.
I'm probably just going to take the volume here and just go for Allen Robinson. I'm not warming on CD Lamb, but I feel like I'm getting him a lot in drafts, and it's getting harder and harder to stay in that take jail.
He is certainly someone I'm warming on. I'm not huge on a third-round ADP for him. He feels like a great value in the fourth, but 3 feels a little high.
Yeah, and when I say I'm doing drafts, I mean I don't do a super lot of best ball. I do enough, but when I'm seeing him in drafts, he's going at the beginning of the fourth round on that turnaround.
So I think that CD Lamb is interesting. I still prefer him to be cheaper.
Yes.
I don't love his price point, honestly, because I feel like you're paying his absolute ceiling for him. I don't feel like there's a lot of room to improve there. Honestly, in his range, I'd rather take more consistent producers like Keenan Allen or Allen Robinson or even Justin Jefferson, who just looked phenomenal last season. And I have more faith in him to repeat. Less mouths to feed in that offense. Adam Thielen's getting older. Actually, Justin Jefferson was who I took there with both of them on the board.
I was going to ask you to explain that.
So I really like Justin. He looked amazing last season. He looked like a bona fide superstar, number 1 wide receiver. And then he's also the number 1 guy in that offense. There is no one else fighting over targets with him. Thielen was mostly just a red zone guy last season. We don't expect that touchdown volume to maintain. I forget the exact percentage, but he was scoring a touchdown on something like almost like 7% of his 7% of his routes run. Like, it was insane.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's unlikely he does that again. So I think that Justin Jefferson is honestly a good bet to maybe not exactly repeat, but his yards could come down, his touchdowns could go up. I think he's going to have another amazing season though. And I just don't. I mean, CeeDee Lamb could be great, or it could be Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup, or it could be Amari Cooper and Blake Jarwin, or it could be a Zeke gear and they keep it on the ground a lot. Like, there's just there's so many ways that CeeDee Lamb disappoints his draft day value to me.
Yeah, I like the pick. Jefferson's just one where he was a little bit too expensive. So while I don't like seeing players get injured, if this cools his ADP a little bit into the top of the third, I think he becomes a great value.
Sure. I mean, yeah, that's top. I mean, top of the third is kind of where he's going right now, honestly.
I've seen a lot where he's going in the back middle of the second. So
that's a little high.
That's a little high for me.
It's a little rich for my blood.
Yeah, as we're going,
I'm more than happy to take him. But, like, he's probably my number 1 receiver off the board if Allen Robinson and Keenan Allen aren't there.
Mm-hmm. So going through with my third round pick, I ended up taking David Montgomery. It was a little bit of a reach, but once again, the pool of running backs that are clear number 1s that get the volume in their offense was drying up fast, and I didn't expect him to anyway make it to me in the fourth. So I just went ahead and pulled the trigger there because I can see, like, right now I have
you also took Devontae in the first, so you didn't have the luxury of waiting on running back there.
So I want to go with another running back here, but it's not quite there, and I'm passing up on very good receivers.
So you took Tyler Lockett instead.
So I took Tyler. Yeah, no. I took Chris Godwin right there.
Just a quick thing that I'm noticing. The team that's after you, Vitaly, Radio Cambodia, are we just going to acknowledge the fact that he doesn't have any running backs through 4 rounds?
He's clearly doing the zero running back draft philosophy, which is the dumbest draft philosophy. If you are a 0 running back person, we should be friends. I want to be in a league with you, probably like a big money league if we can.
Yeah, draft right next to him.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because especially that guy is now 4 receivers deep. Like, it's a little bit overkill for your team to put yourself that behind the ball with running backs, because we're at the point right now the best running back on the board is Miles Sanders if you're going by ADP.
Yeah, I don't love the running backs in this range, honestly. I mean, Darrell Henderson's fine, but he gets hurt a lot. Talent. I mean, the talent's there. I'm thinking about him at this pick. Ultimately, I think I need another wide receiver here just to kind of balance my team out a little bit.
You don't want to go with Kyle Pitts in the fourth here?
No, I'm probably going to take Deontay Johnson here. Even though he had some drops in the Hall of Fame game, obviously it's the first game. The training camp has barely started yet. He's out there, getting game reps. Everyone's going to look rusty, and I think this is important to mention. You can't drop the football if you aren't getting targeted. Tyreek Hill, if I'm recalling last year's stats correctly, I don't have them in front of me. Tyreek Hill, I believe, was the second most drops in the league last year. No one's saying he's a bad receiver. So I'm not worried about Deontay's drops at all. I love the talent. I think the volume is still going to be there enough to support him. It's just going to be who's going to be supported behind him.
Yeah.
I don't think the Steelers can support three wide receivers this year. But I'm not worried about Deontay at all. And in the fourth round, I think he presents a very interesting value target because he's one of these few wide receivers who, if everything breaks his way, he could end up in the top 10 of wide receivers.
Yeah, as I've said, I'm a big fan of Deontay this season. So, Frankie, you just went ahead and locked up Miles Sanders. Who are you thinking here for this pick, and what about?
I'm gonna do something that I don't usually do.
Draft Kyle Pitts.
No, I'm gonna draft Lamar here.
Okay.
I don't hate it.
I want to see how my team looks with one of those expensive quarterbacks, especially in best ball.
Sure.
I like a lot of. See, I mean, I feel like I just keep shouting into an echo chamber. I love a lot of the wide receiver depth, especially in the later rounds of drafts, where you can get guys like Russell Gage and Traquan Smith, and even like those mid-round guys like Judy and everything else who can be maybe not wide receiver ones, maybe high upside wide receiver twos.
I was going to mimic you here and take Kyler Murray, but he went right after you.
Which, if you look at that guy's team, very interesting strategy. I like his running backs, but he has two quarterbacks already.
Josh Allen and Kyler. Huh.
Like, he wants to make sure
he's covering his bases.
He's covering his bases, but he still doesn't have a wide receiver, and they are starting to slowly.
Well, I've been taking a lot of Mark Andrews in best ball. I don't see why I should change that now. I think, to me, he's the most trustworthy receiver in Baltimore. We've seen him have high touchdown upside on almost a year in, year out basis. I'm perfectly happy taking him in the fifth. I think he is him and Hawkinson kind of round out the tight ends that I am willing to take in the early to early middle rounds. Yeah, he's sort of like the Darren Waller consolation prize.
Yeah, he's one of the last receivers. If he's off the board, then I just know that I'm going late on tight end.
Yeah, you're picking like Adam Troutman in like the 11th round.
Right. So with that,
or you're picking Cole Kmet.
Well, Kyle Pitts went off the board. Somebody was, I like him, but once again, I like him in the 8th round. I don't like him in the 4th, 5th.
There's just too much talent in the 5th round. Like, there's a lot of really good players in this range, and like to take an unproven guy, or honestly, to like Frankie, to take a quarterback, it's hard because you're giving up on a real fantasy asset.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna go ahead and take a player I don't take much, but with his such depressed price right there, I'm gonna go ahead and take Beckham.
What, Frankie?
Another wide receiver for Radio Cambodia over there.
Man likes his wide receivers. I wonder if he knows that there's only 3 startable wide receivers and a flex spot in this league.
Yeah, he's now 5 deep with receivers and nothing else. It's very bold. But with Beckham, I was looking at him, and the guys in this area, Gallaudet, he's hurt. Robbie Anderson, I like him, but he only had that one good year. Beckham is he's a talent that ideally should come back. The Cleveland Browns should be a good offense this year. And him being my 3rd receiver, if he's not great, it doesn't hurt me as much as in previous years where you had to take him with a second, late first pick when he was getting injury prone. In best ball, I can cover that with a lot of late receivers that I love, a la Jerry Jeudy, Tyler Boyd, Michael Thomas if I want to get him for when he eventually comes back. Like all these guys that I can just push into my lineup to cover up his injury.
Sure.
If he's banged up again.
I just can't get. I think that Odell Beckham's just a name at this point in his career. I mean, it's been so long since we've seen him be good.
Yeah, and I think that's where the fantasy community is going in. So he's getting dropped. Like I've seen him slip into the 6th. Like he's just driving down to the point where it's like he's still the number 1 on his team.
Is he though?
I still say he is because I think I don't know what it is.
I think it's his old teammate Jarvis Landry.
It could be. It certainly could be. And
Well, actually, old and current teammate.
There's a reason why I don't want to pay anything higher than like fifth is probably the most I would pay for Odell Beckham, and I understand the hate is getting up there, and I understand it. But
So who are you thinking about here at 6'5", Vitelli?
a player I was hoping was going to fall to me. I saw him just low enough that I was going to go ahead and grab him. I'm going to go ahead and take Kareem Hunt here to give myself a third running back who can certainly produce right behind Nick Chubb. Him and the two of them in concert. Great PPR running back. And like you said, if anything ever happens to Chubb, he is an amazing value.
I think he's actually being kind of overplayed. I mean, we saw him last year. Something did happen to Chubb, and he wasn't an amazing value. I don't know if he's lost a step or if the Browns just don't know how to use him correctly, but Kareem Hunt just didn't perform like we've become accustomed to Kareem Hunt performing last year when he had the show to himself. And he didn't do as much when Chubb was on the field with him either. I mean, he seemed like he was truly the 2 to Chubb's 1 last season, as opposed to the 1B to 1A. Mm-hmm. I think the upside is he does still get a lot of passing or receiving volume, but I just for the 6th round price, I'd rather have like Chase Edmonds, Trey Sermon, Damian Harris. Maybe even take a shot on Javonte Williams. I just think there are guys with more upside than him because we've seen him be the lead dog, and it just doesn't seem to work out for him. Here at 6'8", I'm going to go ahead and lock up Dak Prescott. He's not usually available in this range, so I'm going to take advantage of that and get me an elite quarterback. I mean, we saw what Dak can do when they take the reins off last year. I don't think they're going to have quite that same throwing volume, but it doesn't have to be exactly that for Dak to, have a great season.
All right. The guy after you the guy who sniped Kyler Murray from you finally took his first not receiver or quarterback with DJ Chark, which I hate.
Yeah, I mean, I don't love really any receivers in Jacksonville this year. Excuse me, I swallowed some water down the wrong pipe. I don't really love any receivers this year in Jacksonville. Urban Myers does not have a good track record with wide receivers. Mm-hmm. If I'm taking shots on a receiver, I'm either going for Visca, who can get it done in a lot of different ways. He's been reportedly standing out in camp. Looks like a really good young player. Or I'm taking a shot at Marvin Jones, who's just cheap.
Yeah. It's one of those ones where like Visca is starting to rise enough where he's slowly losing his value. But I think in redraft, there's a good chance if your league mates are not as savvy and not as doing as much research as you can certainly find Visca in the late rounds because he had a couple of pop weeks where he wasn't really making much noise compared to other rookie wide receivers. So as we come back up to your pick again, what are you thinking?
Ooh. It's really hard to not take Kenny Gallaudet here, but I feel like I need another running back because if you look at the running backs that are available after this round, it starts to dry up pretty quick. For me, I'm just kind of between Trey Sermon and Damian Harris here.
For me, I think if those are who you're between, I think Damian Harris is the clear one.
That's who I'm locking in because
got the job already.
So I like Trey Sermon's talent better, and I think that the 49ers are probably a better team than the Patriots right now, as much as it pains me to say that. But I do give credence to Damian Harris already having the starting job as opposed to have to wait for an injury to play in.
Yeah, I've been picking a lot of Damian Harris this year.
But don't get me wrong. I also have a lot of shares of Trey Sermon. I love the situation. I love the talent. I think that even if it's by player skill and earning the right to more snaps, or if it's just by a war of attrition, I think he's going to end up as the bell cow out there in San Francisco.
Yeah. So as I was saying, Frankie, I did like that pick there. A player I've always liked and just hasn't really broken through fully is Mike Williams on the Chargers. He's got the build. I feel he's got the talent. It's just he's got to put it all together. And I think Herbert's the quarterback.
I would say he's playing with probably the best quarterback he's ever played with.
We've talked about this a couple of times. Like the biggest thing standing between him and being a true complete NFL wide receiver is his injury history. If he can figure out a way to get past his injury plagued past and and truly put together a full season, a la Will Fuller last year, and hopefully the way he figures it out isn't HGH. But if he can figure out a way to do that, he's going to be great. Like no one's debating that. It's just right now, it's how many games you actually going to get out of Mike Williams.
Damn, I wanted Michael Carter there.
You were waiting for him?
Yeah, he was one of the two guys I was looking at. I was like, I have to really make a decision here because having another running back with me not going running back in the first round really would be nice. I know he's very limited being on the Jets, and he'll probably just be a 2-down back.
The Jets are kind of an enigma, though. I mean, let's pretend for a moment that they made some good draft picks and got rid of their toxic head coach. Zach Wilson could hypothetically turn that. Rookie quarterbacks aren't always all that in a bag of potato chips, but if he's any sort of good, that team could at least have flashes this season.
Yeah,
they have a decent wide receiver core out there. I mean, Corey Davis is a fine wide receiver too. The rest of that team should be trying to play to see who is the one. I think they could be interesting.
Mm-hmm. Let's see what
Herndon's still out there too. He could eventually break
snipes
out.
Me.
See if he goes for a 7th wide receiver in 8 rounds.
I hope he does go for a 7th wide receiver because I'm looking at Mr. Aaron Rodgers here, who does fall to me. I love it. He was the guy I was considering against Michael Carter.
Sure.
Rodgers here in the 8th is a no-brainer for me. Like I said, I get to pair him with Devontae and really just cash in on Rodgers, just going out and playing football as much as he wants to, just doing what he wants out there and padding his stats so he can get the best contract he can to kind of round out his career.
I love it. I hope Rodgers blows doors this season.
Yeah.
It's always fun to get to watch him just, go out and do old school Aaron Rodgers things, like before all the injuries and everything.
Yep.
All right, so my pick is encroaching here. I was hoping Ronald Jones is going to fall to me. I like him a lot. With the talent he brings to the table, I think that offense is going to be awesome. Obviously, he's not going to be a top 7 running back or anything like that, but I think he presents legit top 24 upside on a week in week out basis, and he can have those massive boom games.
Yeah, but you do have a good selection here of wide receivers if you want to go safe with Jarvis Landry, if you want to try and shoot for upside with Waddle, Darnell Mooney. Like, there's some guys here I like.
Yeah, I'm probably taking Jalen Waddle here. I don't love him, but I think he's the guy that it was either him or Elijah Moore in this range.
That's who I'm hoping honestly falls to me in my next pick.
Yeah, I just think the Dolphins are a little more of a complete team than the Jets right now.
Yeah.
And Jalen Waddle was really good in college. If he can, parlay that into having a strong start to the NFL, to his NFL career, he could be a big upside guy for my team. I don't particularly need upside at my wide receiver position because I've already got Justin Jefferson and Deontay Johnson, but I'm never going to say no to it.
Yeah. Like I said, I like the pick there, Jarvis Landry. He's just a great anchor play where if you're not having a great week of receiver, he's just going to slot it with 11 points. It's just what he does. He is basically the...
he is the real number 1 in Cleveland, let's be honest. I think Odell's time is done.
That's... and when it comes to redraft, that will probably be my mindset. But for best ball, where I'm getting out multiple shares and I'm shooting for the moon, I'll go ahead and try to buy in on that, the rebound. But with Waddle, I do like him because he's been standing out in camp. He's playing with a quarterback that he played with in college. It's a system that should be similar to him, and he's getting the opportunity because the receivers around him are getting banged up and or suspended. Like he should have the opportunity to flash early.
So are you taking Elijah Moore here, Frankie?
I am taking Elijah Moore here.
Perfect, because that means that I can take Russell Gage.
As soon as I looked at my list, I was like, Ian is 100% going to take Waddle Gage. Russell Gage was the next pick.
Waddle Gage!
It's a wombo combo. Waddle Gage.
Listen, we're all struggling today with talking, apparently.
Listen, I am on my 4th day of working for 8 days straight, so my brain is... That's why I'm drinking coffee. Got to keep the brain sharp. Sharp brains, sharp fantasy teams.
Sharp.
I feel like that's a hazard.
All right. So
no, but I do. Like I said, I've talked. I'm gonna keep talking about it until his ADP goes up. I don't understand why Russell Gage's ADP is so. I know he's not an amazing player, but he did really well last season. Now he's in a position to just have those targets permanently.
You know what? Let's just block the two old men together. I'm going to go ahead and take Tom Brady.
Trying to get that 40 touchdown upside from multiple quarterbacks.
Yeah, just go.
I don't love it, honestly. I don't think it's really necessary to pair them together. I think you end up, hurting your team more than you help it if you take two quarterbacks in this range.
I too am playing the ADP game here a little bit, where I saw that the other guys all had one. I figured that there's a good chance that he doesn't make it to my next pick, and I'm hoping a running back that I have talked about does make it to my next pick.
Who's that?
Mr. Zachary Moss, who is
he has been getting a lot of rave reviews from camp.
Out of camp, he's been shining, and they say he's far and away the number one running back there. So he is a great depressed value.
Unfortunately for you, he's also the top running back on the board right now. So if somebody is thinking running back,
well, this guy has 3. The next guy has 2, but
Radio Cambodia did go 0 running back, so
he might need a tight end though. Dallas Goedert staring right in the face. He could go with him over that.
Yeah, Dallas Goedert. Okay.
Hey, all right. We can't predict this radio kid. All right, he's going all over the place, and maybe he doesn't like the Bills. Maybe he's not a Bills fan. He is a Bills fan and takes Zach Moss right in front of my face.
That's unfortunate.
I cry many tears.
Frankie, I didn't know we were live streaming this episode. No, I mean, I think you could kind of see that one coming. Zach Moss is currently a target of people who do the 0 running back strategy because of the upside that he presents.
Yeah, I really didn't like anything else. So I was really, really hoping that he was going to be there.
Sure.
With what was hanging around, I felt like he was like one of the last few running backs that had a chance of doing something special.
There's a couple other guys here that are interesting.
Yeah, but it's a tier break for me, I guess is what the best way to put it.
Sure.
It definitely is a drop off. So I just went ahead and I just went for Tunyon, see if he can retain some of that touchdown upside once again. Now I've basically just got a stack with Rodgers. So if he goes out there and slings 4 touchdowns, there's a good chance I'm getting some of those back to me.
I would hope so with Devontae Adams and Tunyon. I mean, Adams alone should be a pretty solid Rodgers stack there. Yeah. Fortunately, the guy ahead of me did not take James Conner, so I'm going to go ahead and lock up my 4th running back here.
Ian, I hate you, by the way. Just thought I'd let you know that.
I like the range that James Conner's going in. I mean, I don't expect a lot out of him, but at the back of the 10th, beginning of the 11th, he easily could end up as the number 1 in Arizona. We've seen him be a top 5 running back before. And Arizona, should be a excellent offense this season. So I have no issues taking a shot in the dark at a guy like Conner and seeing if he can sort of reclaim some of his former glory. Right. Plus, it really jams up Frankie's draft strategy, which I love.
It does jam up my draft strategy. I need something here, so I'm just gonna take Lenny there because I was.
You got jammed.
No, I'm comfortable with the 2nd pick here.
So
Uncle Lenny, huh?
Yeah,
I don't love it.
I don't love it either. The James Conner kind of caught me off guard a little bit, but
Wait, who'd you think I was gonna take there?
I don't know. Maybe not James Conner.
No, you clearly have not been drafting with me enough.
Who are you taking now?
What are you looking at here, Frank? You finally gonna take a tight end?
Take Goddard.
You are an Eagles fan.
Go back to Giuseppe.
You are an Eagles fan, and the Eagles' top tight end is sitting there on the board.
Waiting a little bit more. I'm actually gonna reach a little bit here.
Who are we reaching for?
Take Traquan Smith.
It's not that much of a reach. What are you talking about?
It's like a little bit of a reach. But no, I really like him, and I'm noticing that in redraft he's going, really late, sometimes undrafted. I'm getting him in the last round.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know why. It's not as egregious as Russell Gage.
Someone has to catch on that team. That is a fact, not opinion. I need to take a wide receiver here, I feel like, but I just hate all the guys in this range. I guess I'll go ahead and grab Terrence Marshall Jr. They've been talking about, or Terrace, not Terrence. They've been talking about him, sort of coming in and filling in the Curtis Samuel role. If Sam Darnold has, a post-Gase bump, sure, maybe he could make something out of Terrace Marshall. Maybe catch a couple deep balls. Gives me the kind of performance that wins me a couple best ball weeks, pushes me over the hump. I'm fine with that in the 11th round. Fortunately, like I said, my top 3 wide receivers are all very solid guys, so yeah, I can take some risks like that later on.
Oh, man, I'm not a big fan of this area right now. But I'm just going to go ahead and just going to grab a running back on a run-first team that if something breaks his way, I mean, for some reason, Gus Edwards just ends up having a couple Gus Bus games, even though he's not the lead dog.
He's still going to get plenty of work on that team. The Ravens run too much for any one running back, or even any one running back in Lamar Jackson to handle all of the volume.
Yeah. So he's just a nice little late 11th round play in my mind. So I'm just like, yeah, sure. I'll lock him up just to be that 1 week where he falls in the end zone for 5 yards and 2 touchdowns or something like that. Those points still count, and he gets to get slotted in, so I don't have to think about when I need to play Gus Edwards.
What are you thinking about here coming up on the turnaround?
I am eyeing another running back. As gross as the situation is, somebody has to carry the ball in Houston, and
no, they don't.
David Johnson.
Nope, they do not.
Because
as I understand it, Houston's plan is actually just to forfeit every week.
I mean, if it didn't, cause a year to tick off their contracts, and somehow they could just save their players for another year, maybe that'd be a strategy. But someone's gonna move the ball forward on that team. I feel like Radio Cambodia is gonna snipe me again, just because now David Johnson's the top running back on the board. But if he goes, then I think maybe I just go for the hype train and try and guess at Adam Troutman. Now that at least for the first few weeks, New Orleans doesn't have a lot of targets to throw to, so he could show out then.
Sure, I mean, for me it's either Troutman or Everett on the board right now. If you're looking at a tight end, I like those guys both as like potential breakout guys. And honestly, once they're gone, I think the tight end market dries up heavily too. So,
So, gonna go ahead and just lock in a 4th running back for myself and take David Johnson.
Gross.
It is gross.
I hate everything about it.
Fifth running back.
See, kids, this is why we preach running back early. Because as nice as it is to have guys like Devontae Adams on your team, then you find yourself relying on old man David Johnson.
Relying is a bit of a stretch.
He is the foundation of Vitali's team.
I mean, I still have a league duo of Jonathan Taylor, David Montgomery, so solid right there.
It's not bad. Like I say, I just don't like the position it puts you in if you take I've tested out in a couple mock drafts, and every time that I take a wide receiver in the first 2 rounds, I feel like my team just ends up so far behind.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm back on the clock here. I like the core of my team. I need to get some other quarterback and tight end picks into the mix here. Looking at the tight end market, I am going to go ahead and grab Troutman. I don't have any of him yet, so I need to get some shares in case he is the real deal. And I don't mind putting. I think honestly, if I have Troutman and Andrews as my tight ends, I don't really need another tight end now. So that frees me up to take some real wacky shots at running back or wide receiver. Take a deep dive at a quarterback that I think could absolutely just blow up or do nothing.
Right, and I think that's one strategy I do like for best ball, is trying to take one of either tight end or quarterback earlier, because then you can just use all the rest of your late round picks.
Yeah, you don't have to pick Jared Cook and Hunter Henry and Gerald Everett.
Yeah, you just grab one of the guys who has secure volume in one of those positions and is going to be a good play, but you grab them a backup for their bye week.
Or if they get hurt.
Exactly. You grab a backup just to throw behind them, and then you go for the other positions, and at the late end of your draft, you're like, all right, I went light on this position and quarterback, or this position and tight end, and you just start hammering it at the end.
Yeah, I learned that lesson the hard way last season. I had a fair amount of Kittle last year, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to get cute with this. I'm not going to draft back. Why would I draft more tight ends? I just paid a 3rd round pick for Kittle. There's a lot of leagues where I wish that I had drafted more tight ends.
Yep, and I just thought Frankie sniped me, but it was the guy between you guys. Soccer Stud took Brian Edwards, who is showing out, and the coaching staff has said he looks like a wide receiver 1 out there.
Yeah, I went ahead and took Tua Tagovailoa. I was hoping for Kirk Cousins, but Kirk Cousins went off the board a couple picks ahead of me. So Tua at least gives me a small stack with Jalen Waddle. As much as I don't really like what Tua showed us last year, I will admit I do think it's still a little too early to call the ball on him. Yeah. There's still a lot of room for that kid to grow. They just put a team around him. I mean, now it's sort of like a Drew Lock year for him where it's sink or swim.
Yep.
If he swims, I just paid a 13th round pick for him. So I am happy to take a shot at a guy like that this late in drafts.
Certainly, yeah. Like I said, he's a guy that I like in best ball basically only. But he's somebody I'm keeping an eye on for redraft.
Hey, he's a fab darling in redraft if he shows out. So what are you thinking here, Vitali? 2 quarterbacks, 5 running backs, 4 wide receivers, and 1 tight end. We are in the back of the 13th round.
So I'm locked in for a wide receiver or a tight end here. Nothing amazing jumping off the page at me. I was considering Cole Beasley here just because he gets production in that offense.
So if you're thinking about a wide receiver, in this range, the guys that I think I like the most are John Brown and Sammy Watkins. John Brown should be the number 1 out there in Las Vegas after the departure of Nelson Aguilar. And, Sammy Watkins is just, he's like custom built for best ball. He's going to go out there and he's going to win you like 2 weeks, but those 2 weeks he's going to score like a gazillion points.
Yeah. So like I said, I just went with Beasley because he catches the ball a lot and like they still use him heavily. Like most of the offseason, like
I guess I'm just surprised because you don't like with the team you drafted, you don't really need the consistent production. You kind of need ceiling plays.
I do, but it's more of a if. I went for this floor play there because Michael Thomas will be out for a while.
Sure.
We know that Odell's an injury-prone player. And the other guys, I just basically need Beasley there for the in case something happens kind of thing. So like right now, there's a good chance I go wide receiver again, but I'm also looking at Gronk here just to, 1, stack him with Brady. 2, he just has a nose for the end zone and basically only gets used between the 20s. So
I mean, at this point in this career, that's basically what I was good for.
Which is fine for best ball tight ends. Like if you're trying to rely on him in redraft,
I mean that's fine for any tight end. You ideally in fantasy football as a whole with how bad the tight end position is, you just want a guy who can fall into the end zone 6 or 7 times a season.
Yep, he can bump off a few people and make his way in there, and then sit out for a few drives, and then show up again when they're back in the red zone.
I mean, being able to fall into the end zone 6 or 7 times a season made Kyle Rudolph a year-in, year-out fantasy producer at the tight end position. He was never going to wow you. But like half of the season games, he was going to get you like 9 points, and that was better than most tight ends out there.
Yep. I made a living off of just waiting till the end of drafts and taking him.
All right, so what are you taking here, Vitali? Are you taking Gronk, or are you going to go for some moonshots, try and capitalize on a late career resurgence on AJ Green, or grab Sammy Watkins or something here?
Amon-Ra St. Brown is still there, and he is a tantalizing prospect. I'm going to shore up my tight end position because he's definitely not going to be there when I come back around.
Sure.
So I'm just going to go ahead and lock that in so I can feel a little more confident about who I've got there because I think he has definitely injury risk with him, whereas Tunyon's a little bit younger. So I think between the two of them, I should be good enough.
You had me worried there for a second when you were mentioning Amon-Ra St. Brown, so I'm glad that you skipped past him because if he's still there at 14-9, he's not making it past 14-9.
Yep. I knew he wouldn't be there. It's kind of just picking between who
he's one of my favorite prospects.
Yeah,
I think that with all those targets that just left Detroit, they're gonna have to throw to someone. He's kind of just by default there, at least talent wise, one. So in basically the 15th round, I love taking a shot at him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm starting to right now go through and try and develop a profile of players that I like for the late end of draft here. Amon-Ra is definitely one of them. There's a couple running backs and wide receivers that have things that I like for these kinds of drafts. One guy who keeps showing up on my radar is KJ Hamler. I love that kid. His footwork is amazing. Whenever I see videos of him in camp, just running cone drills, running routes out there, crisp.
Sure. So. I don't hate it. I mean, it's hard to hate anyone in this range, really. I think the biggest thing against KJ Hamler, if I was to try and nitpick it, is that that's a crowded offense.
Yes.
And I just don't know if he has the talent to play in over even Noah Fant, never mind Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton.
Certainly, and I think that's baked into a 15th and 16th round draft price for him. So it's why they're these kind of late round guys that, like, when I'm picking between, like, I don't want a Deshaun Jackson this late in his career. A lot of guys I haven't even heard of. Like, you're really kind of digging through the bin trying to find anything that shines at this point.
Now, what about in this range taking somebody like Randall Cobb? Recently traded for by the Packers, back with his old flame Aaron Rodgers. Do you think he's got anything left in the tank? Also, Frankie, what are you looking at here at 15-2?
Go ahead and give me that. I'll talk about when we can jump on to Cobb.
I was looking at another receiver.
AJ Green. Hopkins did say he's the best receiver he's ever played with.
I'm not really playing for anything.
He did clarify to say, at the times that he's played with them, because he's played with using a wheelchair, Larry Fitzgerald, and
what?
Basically, because Larry Fitzgerald's older than time.
Yeah, and you're now back up.
Yeah, I got to take a quarterback here.
Deshaun just came off the board.
I was kind of honestly hoping for him because.
Well, you don't want
he
some
could be a big
Danny Dimes?
A big splash play. No, I'm just going to take Derek Carr. Derek Carr is just regularly a very solid fantasy quarterback, and that's kind of what I need. I mean, Dak Prescott gives me all the upside. Tua is also all upside. Like, I need someone who can just, in a week if they flop, just go out there and get me like 15 points. And like
it helps that the Raiders' offense, Raiders' defense is terrible.
Yeah, I mean their team is terrible, but Derek Carr just regularly goes out there and doesn't wow you, but he doesn't kill you. He goes out there and scores a acceptable amount of points. So what are you thinking here, Vital? You considering corn on the cob?
No, I am going to go ahead and take Hamler here. Like I said, it's a crowded back row, but he's just a player I like. And
I'm sorry, it's a crowded back row?
Backfield. I was looking at Lazard for a bit, but I feel like I'm a little too invested into Green Bay at this point. I feel like I've got their focal points, and that's about all I need.
They just feel like there's too many people there. I mean, Alan Lazard and Randall Cobb play basically the same position.
And then the rookie they just drafted is also playing the same position.
Yeah, I mean, that's
why I didn't like the trade. It felt like they were just appeasing Rodgers for a guy who's already committed to just being there for this year and then gone.
I mean, I'm fine with it because I was curious what your thoughts were. Honestly, my thoughts are that Randall Cobb is going to end up being the second receiver to own in Green Bay because Rodgers clearly has a little bit of a Brady thing going on where he likes to work with receivers he trusts. Mm-hmm. And Rodgers is good enough to boost receivers around him. I think that Cobb could have a resurgence, maybe not like old school Cobb season, but like a resurgent season, maybe top 36 or like weekly flex appeal, just by proximity to Rodgers.
Yeah. But as we're coming around, there's not a lot I like right now. So there's a guy that I've been targeting late in drafts that I doubt is going to go. Quadri Allison.
Sure.
Second, I believe it's his second year in the league. Yeah, third year in the league. Sorry. But he's their backup running back, and I just have this feeling that we're going to see a Justin Forsett type disappearance from Mike Davis. So I'm just going to project that happens, and Quadri is the benefactor and takes over the job.
Yeah, I mean, if you believe that, all of the things that we said about Mike Davis hold true for anyone who is in that role. Whoever holds the Falcons starting role has all of the same appeal as Mike Davis, maybe more.
Yeah. So
because Mike Davis isn't that good.
Exactly, and he's older. So I'll take some fresh legs in that.
What are you thinking here, Ian?
Oh, I'm taking Nico Collins. Brand new wide receiver in Houston. Same situation as Detroit where somebody has to catch the ball. It's not all going to Brandon Cooks. The kid is interesting to me, and just the fact that I think he might be the only young person on that team. I I don't really love anything that has to do with Houston, honestly. But like this late in drafts and with the target volume he could see combined with his talent, I don't see any reason to not take a shot at him.
Yeah.
It'd be different if he was going, even in like the 11th round, but he's not. He's going in what is undrafted in redraft.
Just knocked my mic over there.
Smooth.
Itch on my lip. But
What are you thinking here, Frankie? 17-2. We're getting close to the
2 picks.
close to the end here.
Well, I just scooped up James White, my last pick, just to round out my running backs with just, someone else there.
Ah, yes. Using the old add a body to my roster strategy.
Yeah. I am going to pick up Van Jefferson here. From LA as, kind of round out that wide receiver. And my last pick, I don't know, I'm kind of looking at tight end just to see if I can blanket it a little bit more because I don't really have one of those, high volume touchdown guys. So I kind of want to just get get another guy who's capable of falling in if it happens. If not, then I'm not really too broken up about it. I'll probably just pick another wide receiver.
So I am not going to just fall into the trap of just picking a green guy because I need to have 5 green guys on my roster. I'm going to pick Devontae Booker because, as we know, Saquon is banged up. Devontae Booker's shown he can do it at the NFL level when he's given the the chance to succeed. Do I think he can be a season-long bell cow? Probably not. But I mean, the Giants supported Wayne Gallman for a stretch last season. I don't see any reason why Devontae Booker can't also, put in some good games if Saquon misses time. And it seems like it's getting more and more likely he is going to miss time. So yeah, I'll take a starting running. I'll take even a partial starting running back in the 17th round.
Okay. So this one I'm kind of between just going tight end or wide receiver. Tight end, wide receiver, and quarterback is what I'm looking at right now. Honestly, I'm gonna go ahead and.
I know Dwayne Eskridge was getting some chatter, after the draft. I haven't heard much about him recently, but
I'm gonna go with a wide receiver out of Detroit, Quintez Cephas.
Sure.
Guy that showed some flashes last year. If he can put it together and take over a very empty role with a quarterback that.
But Vitali, last year's wide receiver fantasy darling Travis Fulgham is still on the board.
Oh
man, he burned too hot. He feels like he was around for like 1 week. I know it was I think it was actually like 4 or 5 weeks, but like, God, he came out of nowhere, exploded onto the scene, and then vanished just as violently. And now he's literally going at ADP 208.8.
Yeah, I remember those weeks fondly of everyone just trying to trade for Fulham or talking about why Fulham's the new number 1 in Philly. Like those guys always have it, and that's why it's you have to recognize sometimes in the early, if you're in a redraft at least, you have to realize sometimes when players are playing a little bit above their head because they're able to get open, they're exploiting bad defenses. It just happened to be their week, like any given Sunday kind of thing.
Sure.
So be realistic about your players and understand their value, and you can trade them away to somebody who is getting a little bit too hypey on them.
Yeah, I mean, the worst thing you can do is become overly attached to someone who's ultimately a role player. Yeah. Because then you end up holding the bag instead of, passing that hot potato on to someone else. So, Vitali, your final pick is coming up here. What are you looking at to round out your draft? What do you think makes your team complete here?
All right. So, looking at my team.
Like, honestly, I don't think you need a second quarterback. You might want a second tight end.
I'm actually between.
Or a third tight end, excuse me.
I'm thinking of third tight end here. There is still a couple quarterbacks on the board, though, that are giving me that, like Jameis Winston's still there, basically.
Well, sure, but why take a third quarterback when you already spent 2 picks on Rodgers and Brady?
It's shooting for that absolute moon there, where kind of thing, and trying to get the absolute. Like I think he has the best chance of producing for my team than some of these guys, but with me going late tight end, I'm going to force myself to forego him, and I'm probably looking at maybe a Blake Jarwin.
Yeah, I mean Tunyon and Gronk leave something to be desired. Blake Jarwin in this range isn't bad. Honestly, Pat Freiermuth, down there in Pittsburgh, he's an obviously rookie tight end, but last round versus 4th round is a considerable discount, and he's been getting some chatter about how they want to use him in the passing game and everything. He honestly might end up being the best immediate tight end in this draft class.
Yeah. So
Tim Tebow's on the board if you want to just get another big guy who can catch touchdowns.
He's going to catch a lot of touchdowns, but
He's basically Rob Gronkowski light.
Yeah, he can do that on somebody else's team. Honestly, I'm going to go with one that kind of began his breakout. I feel like Mo Alley Cox here might be the guy. I'm between him and Dalton Schultz, really. Dalton Schultz is going into his second year. He got far more targets, but I don't know if that's going to be it. So
I don't think Dalton Schultz has any spark, because the only reason he even had opportunity was because of Jarwin's injury. Now Jarwin's back, so now best case scenario, he's fighting for his job, and there's still a complicated wide receiver tree there as well.
Yeah,
I have no interest in Dalton Schultz personally. I think honestly the only other tight ends in this range that I'm interested in outside of the Jarwins and Mo Alley Cox of the world, OJ Howard still has some flash to me. He could still come onto the scene. He has all the physicals. He just needs to put it all together, get an opportunity. And then Hayden Hurst for the second year with the Falcons. Everyone's kind of ignoring the fact that he's there, but he easily could be their tight end one this season while Kyle Pitts learns the NFL ropes.
Yeah.
I am not going to be taking a tight end in this range, though. I'm going to go ahead and draft Josh Palmer to just round out my wide receivers. We've talked about Mike Williams' his issues with staying on the field. Palmer could end up being the number 2 out there just by existing. He's also a very talented kid, and he's tied to a absolute steal of a quarter. I mean, man, the Chargers made out like a bandit with that kid.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's tied to an absolute steal of a quarterback. I think that he's one of my favorite. Him and Nico Collins are two of my favorite, like, really late wide receivers to pick. All right, final thoughts about our teams, boys.
This has emboldened me to want to get a running back in the first round.
Not liking how your team ended up.
No, mainly like I love Devontae. It's just that running backs get snapped up so fast, so then I'm replacing him with a running back that I'm like not hugely for, but like Jonathan Taylor's shouldn't be that bad. It's just his price did need to be depressed with the losing Wentz, and then on the off chance they do need to be out for a longer timetable. But I knew that's why third round, regardless of what I was doing, I was going in and getting one of those, third, high, fourth running backs. So I went and reached with David Montgomery. So I'm not hating on that too much, but I think wide receivers where I really hit it. I went basically for the moon on everything. And if things break my way with those receivers, I think I can really make some hay.
Sure. For me, I just don't like drafting out of the 4 slot. I don't like the players that I end up with in that range. I'm happy that I have Alvin Kamara and Najee Harris leading off my squad. I got lucky with wide receiver in that I was able to get Justin Jefferson and Deontay Johnson, but I feel like my wide receivers fall off really fast, which I don't feel like I see as much when I'm drafting out of the back half of drafts. I feel like I usually end up with a good complement of running backs and a really strong wide receiver core. And with this team, it kind of feels like it's Justin Jefferson and Deontay Johnson, and then just a bunch of guys who could all break out or who could all just disappear, and I just have 2 wide receivers.
Yeah.
Mark Andrews, I almost always end up with him because he's just easy to grab in his range if you believe in him. So,
it's the one thing where because you grabbed him the 6th round,
5th.
Yeah. So I think that is the other thing you feel it a little bit more with your receivers because you went with tight end in the 5th, whereas you could have gone wide receiver in the 5th, and maybe it feels that way.
But I often go tight end in the 5th round. Like I said, my 2 of my most rostered players in best ball this year. Actually, I can go pull up my my exposure right now to quote you exact numbers. So like I said, I've been doing this a lot so far this season. 2 of my most rostered players in best ball are T.J. Hawkinson and Mark Andrews, who are going like right next to each other. T.J. Hawkinson I have on 35% of my teams, and Mark Andrews on 29%. So I've been getting the 2 of them a lot, combined 64%. And I generally feel like I still have a pretty good team around them. I don't love it when I have to take out of the front because I feel like it depresses the talent further down my roster.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm mortgaging the back half of my roster to get the Alvin Kamara or the Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, I'm kind of feeling the same way. Like, I like my draft through my first 10 rounds looking at this, but after that, I feel like the back half of the draft is kind of just like meh to me. I like when I'm drafting out of like that, basically from 8 down, because I feel like the players, the way that they fall, especially in best ball, is a lot better.
Sure.
And again, it's like you can reach on those players if you think that you're gonna. I think it's easy. I guess the best way to see it is it's easier to reach when you're at the back of the draft than when you're at the front of the draft, because you have to rationalize it more, and you have to kind of just be like, what's going to be there next? Where that back half, a lot of the players that I like slide down a lot more. So again, yeah, I'm happy with my first half. Not so happy with my second half.
All right, well, that'll do it for us today with our final best ball draft of the year. Tune in later this week as we bring you guys our non-draft related segment. And keep on watching over the course of the preseason as we drop the rest of our mock draft series. We'll be doing half point and full point PPR over the coming weeks. As always, if you like the content we're bringing, like, follow, subscribe. Even if you don't have time to fully watch the video, if you want to just tune in for the parts you want, and you can leave the video on, or any watch time at all that you can give really helps the show out. It helps us get into the YouTube algorithm a little better. It helps the show grow, and if the show grows, we can give you guys more content. Help us help you win is kind of how we're looking at it. And obviously make sure to hit that notification bell so that you can get notified exactly when new content drops. See you later, guys.